Since the 1980s, U.S. aid to Israel of around $3 billion per year has been seen as unconditional. That's according to Stephen Walt, a professor of international affairs at the Harvard Kennedy School, cited by Al Jazeera. The idea has been able to rely on bipartisan support from both Democrats and Republicans throughout that time, after the U.S. initially offered aid conditional on Israel signing a peace treaty with Egypt at the end of the 1970s. After recent news events, however, cracks are appearing on the U.S. side of that arrangement. Here's what you need to know. President Joe Biden is being challenged from within the Democratic Party over the $3.8 billion of aid the U.S. sends to Israel every year, according to the BBC. Senator Bernie Sanders, for one, has said the U.S. should look hard at how the money is spent. Almost all U.S. aid to Israel comes in the form of military assistance, and its annual grants represent around 20% of the overall Israeli defense budget, according to a 2020 report by the Congressional Research Service. Israel has used billions of dollars on gaining military superiority over its neighbors. For example, purchasing 50 F-35 fighter jets, which can be used for missile attacks, or last year purchasing 8 KC-46A Boeing aircraft. Of the $3.8 billion given to Israel in 2020, $500 million, or around 13%, was used for missile defense systems. These include that Iron Dome system, toward which the U.S. has contributed $1.6 billion since 2011. Since 2016, the U.S. has also spent $177.5 million on anti-tunnel capabilities that detect, map, and neutralize underground tunnels that threaten itself or Israel. To date, the U.S. has provided Israel with $146 billion in military and missile defense funding, and its military spending commitments have steadily increased over the last 3 decades under the Clinton, Bush, and Obama administrations. According to the BBC, since World War II, Israel has received more U.S. aid in total than any other country. In 2019, the last one-year period with fully reported figures, it was only receiving less aid than Afghanistan, a country that will receive much less aid now that U.S. troops are set to leave. The context for Israeli funding is changing, however. Last month, in the House of Representatives, U.S. Congresswoman Betty McCollum introduced a bill asking for guarantees that U.S. aid is not used in abuses against Palestinians, according to Al Jazeera. Meanwhile, last week, Democrats in both houses introduced resolutions aimed at blocking a new $735 million arms sale to Israel, according to The Guardian. While unlikely to pass, they reflect a 2021 Gallup poll showing 25% of Americans now sympathize more with Palestinians than Israelis, an increase of 6 percentage points since 2018. Of course, ties between the U.S. and Israel will not disappear overnight. The relationship is long-lasting and based on numerous factors, according to the Congressional Research Service report. These include what it calls shared strategic goals in the Middle East, a mutual commitment to democratic values, and historical connections originating from U.S. support for Israel's creation in 1948. So, if it changes, it may well change slowly. For now, the U.S. will keep paying for equipment like this. The BBC reports that Israel's Iron Dome air defense system has shot down thousands of rockets fired from Gaza in the past few days. This system is designed to destroy unguided rockets flying at low altitudes. It comprises multiple batteries that are spread out to defend a large area. Each battery is made up of 3 parts. The first part is the radar unit, which detects enemy rockets and feed their speed and trajectory data to the command unit. The command unit calculates which rockets pose the greatest threat to urban areas and infrastructure, ignoring those whose trajectory indicates they are likely to hit unpopulated areas. The command unit then launches a 3-meter-long missile at the selected target. The missile destroys the target by exploding in its path, and each missile costs about $40,000. These missile defense batteries can reach targets up to 70 kilometers away, and they are designed to be mobile so they can be quickly packed up, transported, and redeployed. Israel's defense ministry said in a news release that it made a technological breakthrough in a defensive laser weapon that intercepts aerial threats. Israel-based Defense Update reports that the laser can shoot down range rockets fired at close range and other threats that are too costly for the Iron Dome to engage. According to the Defense Ministry, the lasers will add another layer of defense to supplement the Iron Dome. Defense Update reports that Israeli air defense batteries, armored vehicles, and aerial drones will be outfitted with the lasers to bolster defense systems already in use. According to Defense Update, the vehicle-mounted lasers will protect maneuvering tanks and troops. The Jerusalem Post reports that the weapon is electrically powered and that it combines multiple beams into one beam capable of overcoming atmospheric conditions. The active defense system is precise, and the laser has successfully intercepted various projectiles in tests, including mortar shells and anti-tank missiles. Citing a military researcher, the Jerusalem Post reports that the weapon could fire a beam the diameter of a coin from Tel Aviv to Herzliya, which provides a dramatic solution to rocket fire. On Monday, the Israeli military continued to release waves of airstrikes on the Gaza Strip as Palestinian militants continued to fire rockets at southern Israeli cities, according to the BBC. According to the Associated Press, at least 212 Palestinians and 10 people in Israel have been killed in a week of violence, with the latest Israeli attacks destroying the Hamas-run Religious Affairs Ministry, which Israel said contained the main operations center for Hamas's internal security forces. The Israeli army also said one of its airstrikes had killed Hussam Abu Harbid, a commander from the Islamic Jihad group, which it says is responsible for some of the ongoing rocket attacks on Israeli territory, according to Al Jazeera. Israel says its attacks are primarily targeting tunnels used by Hamas and other militant groups in the Gaza Strip, as well as the homes of Hamas military commanders, according to the Associated Press. However, the BBC reports that infrastructure has also been targeted inside Gaza, including the main coastal road in Gaza and power lines. Additionally, vital animal feed supplies are being held outside Gaza, according to the UN Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. Last week, it was widely reported that an Israeli airstrike destroyed a building housing Al Jazeera and Associated Press offices, with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken saying Monday he had seen no evidence to verify Israel's claim that Hamas operated inside the building, according to the Associated Press. Recent days have witnessed the worst violence in Jerusalem for years, according to the BBC. And yesterday, the conflict escalated once again. Here's what you need to know. Ongoing disorder and violence has spiraled into retaliatory rocket and airstrikes by Israel and Palestinians, according to the BBC. Tensions between the two sides have been escalating for weeks over two issues in particular, according to the Associated Press. Nightly Palestinian protests initially broke out at the start of the holy month of Ramadan after police placed restrictions on gatherings at religious sites, including the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. Clashes then escalated over Israeli plans to evict dozens of Palestinians from their homes in East Jerusalem, with more than 500 Palestinians and 21 Israeli police officers injured on Saturday night at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, according to The Guardian. The violence peaked Monday night after Palestinian militants fired rockets into Israel. In response, the Israeli military launched airstrikes against what it said were militant targets in the Gaza Strip, killing 20 Palestinians, according to The Guardian, citing the Palestinian Health Ministry. A march by Israeli nationalists due to pass through Muslim areas of East Jerusalem's Old City has been called off over fears it could promote further unrest, according to the BBC. Both sides have now warned of further attacks, according to Al Jazeera. In a speech, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu accused Hamas, the group that rules Gaza, of crossing a red line with his rocket fire, promising whoever attacks us will pay a heavy price. Abu Abeida, spokesman for Hamas's military wing, said the attack on Jerusalem was a response to Israeli crimes and aggression.
For more news animations and explainers, hit the subscribe and bell button to join the TomoNews family. Thanks for watching.